Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Yokai Delinquents podcast. I am Sean Bearded Kappa Litton,
And I'm Jerry Robo Tengu Smith.
and this is just going to be an introductory episode, really. We just kind of wanted to welcome everyone who's going to be listening to us yammer on about stuff, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yammering about everything.
Anything and everything, really. And today we figured we'd kind of give like any good heroes you want to listen to is our origin story about just how we met and how we ended up here of all fucking places, right?
Yeah, YouTube of all places.
YouTube, where we all end up, going to do stuff and things. But some of y'all might be tuning in, might be familiar that this is going to be on my YouTube channel, Bearded Capper Productions. Uh, I've always been, I've always enjoyed YouTube since I discovered it, and I enjoy watching a lot of content creators. So I started kind of making my own movie reviews and pickup videos, and was become really popular, which kind of really pushed me for this was my unpopular opinions videos.
Yeah,
And
the unpopular opinions are great. I disagree with some of them too. I kind of yell at the screen, whenever I watch some of them.
well, that just means I did what it was supposed to do, get a reaction, get to discussing, and Jerry here is my good friend that is sadly no longer in the state with me anymore. So we've been wanting to do something where we can just chat again, and hell, if somebody finds out us talking entertaining, all the better, right?
Right. Yeah, we've stretched out with the magic of Wi-Fi and the internet across the country.
For sure. But okay, well, I'll go and get in though how we met. My local comic book shop. Well, we could get into the how we first met, but I don't want to come across like an asshole immediately. You know what? No, fuck it. We're going ahead and do this. You know what? This is the origin story. Get to know your enemy. I mean host. I worked for the lovely corporation known as GameStop. And during one of the many ill-paid, ill-treated holiday season, because I know it's winter, so it had to be. Well, granted, winter here in Arkansas could be any time of the damn year, Christmas or after. But apparently, and I don't remember this conversation because I'm sure I had this conversation with many people who are annoying the shit out of me. A young man came into my shop, and I'm mad because I'm working at GameStop making the minimum wage that I could. Tires balding. Granted, I probably should have taken care of that in a truck bed. So I'm paranoid about ice. I'm paranoid about other drivers. I don't want to be at work at that time. So in comes apparently Jerry. You want to take it from your perspective on here?
Yeah, so here's the setting for you. I honestly can't remember what I was coming in to pay on. It
Yeah.
had to be some kind of pre-order because I had a lot of pre-orders back then. But it was also like lightly snowing that day, I think. And so Mr. Litton here was not a very happy camper about being at work during this weather.
Oh yeah.
And I walked in and oh man, what was it that you said exactly? Like
Like
you were just kind of like stuck there, like you
like
weren't closing early or anything like that. You're just very upset about the whole situation.
yeah. I think again I don't remember the conversation, but it stuck with you because you brought it up a few times over the years
Yeah,
we've known each other. It was something, and it sounds just like me at that time. Of yeah, I was hoping to close early, but people keep coming in here. I'm looking
yeah,
like
yeah. Just
customer.
looking at me with disdain.
Because I mean, like I said, no excuse for that. I mean, I've worked retail my entire adult life. I mean, all I can say is Jerry's a forgiving guy because I was clearly being a dick that day and probably ready to leave the company at that point. Because depending how many years ago it was, I haven't been in that company for a long time.
Jesus Christ, it was well over 10 years, I'm sure.
Well, fast forward to me going back to my local comic book shop. I had I started doing pixel bead art with the perler beads, and the employee Shane and Matt, I've been like talking with them buy my comics, and one day there was a new guy there, all sprightly and full of youth, and happy to be there. And
So
yeah,
full of life,
so
so
full
full
of
of
life.
cheer.
Because I know I'd at that point I'm pretty sure I'd made that first Thanos for Matt, and I made something for Shane. I think I made him a Luffy. It was
I think you guys were in talks about it.
maybe in talks because I know the great unifier for us was One Piece, the anime One
Yeah,
Piece, because yeah, you requested Trafalgar Law
yeah,
and
and Beppo.
Beppo. Yes, for those who don't know, One Piece is Japan's biggest modern anime. I would say, like no, it's there's bigger franchises out there like as far as like who've been going longer, but usually branching off like say Gundam's been around for decades, but it's always been a different series. One Piece, if you don't know, is like just one of the has been non-stop since the manga '97, the anime '98, and
Yeah,
we'll yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
it's easily become a staple in Japanese culture for sure.
Oh,
Like it is humongous over there.
oh yeah, and we'll definitely be getting into that in some later episodes. But that I always like to joke he commissioned Trafalgar Law and Beppo, two characters from One Piece, for me to make, so he bought our friendship. But nah, really,
That's fair.
but yeah, from there it was just yeah me hanging out at the comic book shop and just talking with Jerry and just find out we got a lot in common. Anime, of course, being the start of it all, but comic books, movies, and we both have over the years it's kind of like yeah we've grown with each other. You know, him taking into my interests, me taking into his interests, and yeah, I mean that's kind of how we met, and from there it's been good God. Probably some of the best times of my later life. As much as my wife doesn't want to hear that.
Later life.
Well, you know, like I was mid 20s. We've known each other like damn near 8 years now.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's been something around that.
Yeah, and I'm 40 now, so like that's why I always joke like because I met my wife. Oh yeah, yeah, maybe around 8 years because yeah, it's into my 30s, and this man introduced me to. I mean, you got me to cosplay. You know, you took me to my
Yeah,
first anime convention, real anime convention, Acon in Dallas. You
yeah.
know, and like we've just from there, you know, like it's you and me have had some damn good times, some rough times as friends do. You know, we
Oh
we
yeah.
we butt heads every now and again. But yeah, you immediately struck me as someone just very personable, very friendly and bubbly, and someone you just want to hit every now and again. But you do want to, you know. But it's always been a joy to be around you, without you know blowing you too hard right now. But
I appreciate that.
well,
Just hype me up.
so you know, so we know your first impression of me. What was your second impression of me?
Well,
when
second impression, nah, just a cool dude all around. Uh, you came in with your thick beard and your bald head, and your love for One Piece, and yeah, like I don't know, I really do this thing of just gravitating towards people and making friends. Even against their will, if they don't want to
oh,
be friends with
oh
me, they're
yes.
gonna be friends.
Oh, I've seen the people get taken hostage by Jerry, and it's impressive to say the least. We've got you know, and the great unifier for you in your life, even before me, because I was into One Piece, but you definitely reinvigorated my love of One Piece.
Right.
But you've made
Yeah.
friends by basically tying them up, throwing them on the One Piece boat, and forcing them into your cult of the One Piece. Would you say that's fair?
There was a point where you know what my living situation was at one point. There was, I don't know, like 8 or 9 of us living in one house,
Oh yes, oh
and
yes.
they were all at one point watching separate TVs, watching One Piece of where they left off until they were all caught up. And now I'm pretty sure most of them just are caught up and read the manga now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Like I was actually talking with some of our buddies. Shout out to Craig, John, and Noel. They were.
Mm,
I actually saw them yesterday, and we were talking about this when I was telling them about we're gonna discuss what the podcast we wanted to make, and
mm,
they're all like, yeah, the Great Unifier, One Piece. Like Craig, our good buddy
mm.
Craig, who is he grew up in the era of like his anime was Speed Racer, what we know as Robotech here in America. You know, the Macross and the was a super dimensional fortress something. I think they combined two anime to make it into Macross in the 70s.
Yeah, Robotech and all that.
Yeah. So or yeah, into Robotech. Thank you. Uh,
Mm.
but he had never got into modern anime, and like man, he was joined us at Kapow's table of discussion, and man, we drew Craig in quick as he got caught up in the manga super fucking fast.
Yeah, having an addictive personality is pretty easy to get people sucked into stuff like that. My favorite thing is like whenever they kind of like mock it at first, and then you
Right,
could tell
right.
that they're slowly coming around, and they're like, "This is amazing." it's
Oh yeah,
it's yeah, it's real great.
and like to kind of bookend on that with Craig, and much to my shame, uh, Craig, who we got in probably one of the last people amongst our main circle into
Hmm.
One Piece, was the first one to get a One Piece tattoo.
I know, right?
And to this day, he's still the only one with one. I
Yeah,
aim to fix that in the future, but that's down the line.
right, right.
But other stuff we are into, and man, like as I mentioned before, a lot of my new hobbies came from you. And damn you, and I love you for that at the same time. Like I said, we mentioned cosplay. Now, that's a, again, we your first cosplay was our first cosplay together. I don't know, did you cosplay before
Uh,
A-Kon that year?
honestly, I don't think I ever did. I think that was the first time.
Wow. So not only was our first cosplay together the same characters you commissioned me to make beat art of, it was actually Trafalgar Law and Beppo from One Piece.
Hmm.
Yeah, and which granted I didn't hand make the Beppo piece. I wouldn't. I feel like I went kind of big in my first thing, making the mat
Yeah,
having Sarah Queen Koopa cosplay shout out, make the Beppo head and gloves, and we customized a jumpsuit. And I mean, you had like a giant his maybe a little too big for the actual character. That you made you had his giant ass sword made.
right. Yeah, it was a pretty amazing cosplay.
Oh
Did
yeah,
we was the same year we also did Strong World versions of them too, wasn't it?
yeah. Not only did we make
Yeah.
not only did we make our first cosplays, we had to make variants
Yeah. Yeah. It
because
was awesome.
we were hyped on the Strong World One Piece movie where all the Straw Hat crew got into their yakuza look. So we also did that on top of their traditional outfits that they wear in the show. So that's
Yeah.
very cool. I had a blast. I mean, I was hooked from cosplay ever since. And I'm still
Hmm.
making various ones that, yeah, definitely will be discussed over the course of these episodes. But yeah, so cosplay also brought us together just to because we're all like I've always bragged like when people are like oh you this is and they compliment my cosplay they're like how'd you do that I'm like
Hmm.
I'm a baller on a budget like
Right.
I try to make the most take the most minimal steps to get it as good as I can because I'm
Right.
not a seamstress. I can't sew, but still making it within my limits is so much fun. I truly do love cosplay. But
My favorite thing is whenever we would do like super obscure characters and like you know not everybody would like realize who we were and stuff like that, but then you'd get that one person that would make it completely worth it, that would just be like blown away that somebody would have the audacity to cosplay those characters, you know?
oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think one of my favorite moments was one of the last time I think we cosplayed together. Actually, was when we did the My Hero Academia spinoff Vigilantes, which is for those who don't know of it. If you know the anime of My Hero, that Vigilantes is a spinoff that's only got a manga, so it doesn't even have an anime to get any kind of attention to it. And we were, Knuckle Duster and the Crawler, and I'm
Hmm.
walking around, and like, granted, I think with the Crawler's one All Might hoodie, even though
Hmm.
you got called All Might a few times,
Right.
but that kind of lets people know where we're from. But I was actually just walking around with Knuckle Duster. If y'all don't know, he's just basically a man in a simple cloth mask and a trench coat, basically very street clothes. I'm walking without Jerry. He's off doing his own thing, and somebody stops like, "Are you Knuckle Duster?" And I was like, "Holy shit, you know Vigilantes!" And they were it was that like professional cosplay group, or they had their own booth with that backdrop, and they had done President Mike, and I want to say it was Eraserhead like the day before,
Right. Yeah.
and I don't think either they didn't see us or we didn't do our cosplay that day. So, but yeah, she stopped us, and I had to go run and find you, and took pictures. I was like, man, that's awesome. I think if any cosplayers are listening, I think they'll understand that, especially if you aren't making mainline characters. That when people can will recognize them, especially like obscure, older, or just lesser known for sure is it's a good feeling as a cosplayer.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was definitely a prideful point
Yep.
in our cosplay history.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, some of the other hobbies we're interested in. One you got me into, which I haven't fallen as deep as you, but
Hmm.
uh, Gunpla.
Yeah,
That is a big part of your life. Why don't you explain what that is for the good listeners?
yeah. So Gunpla is, I guess you could say, the art of building models, plastic models from a series called Gundam. It's been around since I believe the 70s. And they make plastic model kits that you snap together. You cut them out and snap them together. It's like a huge thing now, with people like customizing and stuff like that. And I actually started a group there in Arkansas called Gunpla and Chill, and it was just kind of like the same sort of thing, where I kind of like I was starting this hobby, and I was like, this would be real fun with like more people, so that I just kind of like drag everyone else into it, and Sean got dragged into Gunpla because of me.
Yeah, which is was always a challenge for me because I'm not into Gundam very much.
Right.
Like I would sit down and watch it with you if I was hanging out, and you're like, "Hey, new episode's up, or watch it." And I'm like, "Okay," you know. But what's cool is the Gunpla in general, just that plastic model kit has branched out into so many
Hmm.
other like series now do it. Like
Hmm.
that was kind of what my mission was was to find non Gundam model kits because I think I ended up giving you most of my Gundam. But there's I found other stuff from like Fantasy Star Online, which was a huge one for me, and even Ghost in the
Right.
Shell, the Tachikoma. I think that was my first actual Gunpla. It wasn't even a Gundam.
Yeah, Bandai puts out a lot of kits. Like they do all the Star Wars ones, all the Dragon Ball ones. They do Hello Kitty. They have some that are just cup noodles, so you can like recreate cup noodles. It's
Wow.
like really interesting. And they've started doing a lot of Kamen Rider and Evangelion and stuff too.
Oh,
And then of course they've got One Piece models.
of course, yeah, the ships, which never
Yeah.
did find buggy, which I
Uh,
never did find a buggy ship. But they also got recently they've been doing Transformer ones, but
oh yes.
they have not done my boy Soundwave yet though, because I will buy that. Because
Yeah.
admittedly, once you moved away, I kind of lost most interest in doing that kind of stuff. But
Right. Yeah.
I'll get a Soundwave.
Right.
But you mentioned Kamen Rider, so
Yeah.
that's another good transition to talk about a hobby you got my ass into for sure.
Oof. Yeah, man, I fell deep into that. As a kid growing up in the '90s and everything, of course, was always drawn to Power Rangers. We actually used to watch it in daycare, which, like, looking back, like, would be a huge no go, like at any daycare nowadays, because it has fighting in it, and of course, like, young kids are gonna imitate what they see on TV and like pretend to be the Power Rangers and fight people.
But instead,
My
it turned out to
cousin,
be the best daycare center.
right, right, and so like I think I was around mid 20s or so, and I had this other friend that was like watching, like he showed me a video of something, and I was like, oh, this looks kind of like Power Rangers. Well, come to find out, Power Rangers is based on a Japanese series called Super Sentai, and Japan, being the lovely place it is, has all of these really great live action superhero shows. One of which being Kamen Rider, which is like if Super Sentai is for like you know, uh, up to 13 or 14-year-olds, then Kamen Rider would be like 15 to 17 or whatever.
Right, right.
It's like a little bit more mature than Super Sentai. So I kind of just started downloading series of it and fell in deep into Kamen Rider. And even years later, like I still have a really big love for all of the campy live action superhero stuff that Japan puts out, and of course I have to spread that love to other people too, get them into it. It's just a really great thing that I really wanted to just share with people.
Oh yeah, and that's I mean, you got me definitely into it. Being I'm a bit older than you, so like when Power Rangers was dropping here in the states,
Mhm.
I was definitely too old to care about like the moral of the story. But I was enjoying the martial art, basically the Japanese footage. What I found out later was Japanese footage of
Mhm.
like I enjoyed the fighting, the giant rubber monsters, and all that good stuff. But
Right.
once you showed me the Japanese version, specifically Kamen Rider, I think I've really latched onto more because, like you said, it's a bit more of the older audience, I guess.
Mhm.
But like sporadic series that I've enjoyed here and there, but like the few that stuck with me, like Kiva and Ghost, those were ones I really enjoyed. So like,
Right.
so once again, Jerry's vortex of his hobbies draws us in, and it's actually kind of amazing. And
Yeah.
that's been a big one. And like I said, some of the stuff like I forced you into, and with any friends, like we're not always going to be into all the same things, but you kind of find that mutual respect. If you're hanging out, you're like, hey, I want to put this on. You kind of like, whatever. You go ahead and do it. Like me, I'm a pro wrestler. As much as I would think you'd really get into pro wrestling. Like this
Yeah.
WWE. Like you watched the pay per views with us, and I appreciated you suffering through
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
But that was something you never really got major into. But movies, I think we definitely bonded over movies over the years too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Watching movies, anime movies, and binging different anime and stuff together. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's we've gotten into some really cool stuff, some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that's definitely like so. We're not trying. We're just trying to give y'all right now an idea of what to expect on the show. Just what our varied interests are going to take us down these conversational paths. And actually, you know what? I spur of the moment. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to bum rush
Hmm?
you with something right now.
Oh boy.
uh, as I mentioned earlier, some of my more popular videos on that I've just personally been uploading were my unpopular opinion videos. And
Right.
I discussed this with Jared that we were going to start bring them into the podcast because I like hearing both of our thoughts, which don't always we don't always agree, and we'll get into some of the. I know one of the ones I already discussed is going to be a topic for later, but I actually
Hmm.
have a fresh, new, unpopular opinion I want to do right here, right now.
Oh boy. All right.
I hope you're good with it because you have no
Yeah.
choice.
Oh boy.
My good buddy, Brian Ingram, who, actually, you know what? I'm going to say our good buddy because we are both forever in debt because he got us to Japan 3 years ago, which
Hell yeah.
that'll definitely be a topic of discussion down the line. But he says, here's an unpopular opinion. Western comics in general suck, and I mean Marvel DC. You can tell he's the ray of sunshine as always. It's hard it is hard to follow a series. The releases are sporadic for big ones. And the Batman Who Laughs stuff, all of it is horrible. But I haven't read Batman Who Laughs, and I'm not sure if you have, so we can't really comment on that. But the in general about Western comics with their releases and sporadic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I want
Yeah.
to what I want to kind of address amongst his opinion, like people who find it hard to get into Western comics. Do you think it's a problem with
Right.
like jumping in the middle of big events? Like, because like what I'm getting from here, he's not liking the events. He finds it hard to jump in on it, just pick up an issue off the wall. And especially you being an former employee of a comic book shop. What do you agree with him, or
Yes.
what's your take on that unpopular opinion that Western comics suck?
So I would have to disagree that they suck. I mean, all art is subjective, right?
Oh, of course, of
Um,
course.
but like, there are definitely upsides and downsides. You can pretty much say like, oh, manga is better because we get it like what every week almost.
Right, right.
And for comics, you literally have to wait a month or longer for your comics, which you know you can't really base it off of this year's timeline because this year's been all like screwy.
Yeah,
Uh,
with the COVID going around, it delayed a lot of books, and
mhm.
so they were definitely coming in a little more sporadic for sure.
Yeah. And it also like has a lot to do with like the shipping company and everything because they literally have like what one shipping company. Well, I guess DC has their own now,
Right, which
which I hear is going swimmingly. Um,
anything but apparently that's not going great.
right. So yeah, there like were constantly issues with like not getting exactly what was ordered and stuff like that. Like I feel like if all comics kind of were on like a digital medium almost,
Right,
you know, like manga and stuff is, I think it might be just a little bit better
and
uh,
I know
for like
DC.
release dates and stuff.
Oh, sorry, but yeah, what I was going to say with that was I know DC has most, if not all, of its current catalog digital
Hmm.
because most books come with a digital code to read, and so I assume there's some way like having to pay obviously to get into that, to be able to get
Yeah.
to the older issues. But I mean, to me, it's like I get what he's saying, but I don't wholeheartedly agree with him as I read a
Right.
lot of Western comics as well as manga. And
Yeah.
like to the point he's making about hard to get into is really like what I kind of focused on.
Hmm.
Because jumping in the middle of a major story arc, which right now that's all Marvel and DC want to do with their mainline titles, are huge
Right.
events. So it is hard to jump into, that's for sure. But what I think though is like that's what a good trade paperback is for. Or and granted, you can also easily just like with Marvel DC specifically. While granted, major you might miss out on some major things like because like I don't read Thor, but I see
Yeah.
Thor in the Avengers, but the way they're being written these days is that you don't really have to know what's going on in Thor's solo series because it doesn't necessarily affect the Avengers run.
Hmm.
So I'd say it just depending on what he's picking up. He brought up Batman and Joker and all that, and granted, right now Batman's been on such a fucking roller coaster. Am I right? As
Yeah.
far as quality storytelling, we had the Tom King run, which something that we mentioned. We both I mentioned before on this on the channel that, and we were both part of a podcast called the Southern Fried Geekery. That was a comic book oriented show, Western comic oriented show, and long time we were talking about Tom King's Batman run because he was putting
Hmm.
out just phenomenal issue after phenomenal issue. And then it slowly started dropping because
Right.
I think what a lot of Western creators aren't built for long running stories. Especially in the Marvel DC camp because they're a lot have a lot more restrictions. Like because like the benefit of manga, like you mentioned, how it comes out weekly, but also you have one creator, one oftentimes one writer and artist. It's usually the same person telling one cohesive story, and I think that makes it a lot easier for people who are kind of like you. It kind of sucks to get on a Green Lantern book, for example. You get in a good run, you love the creator team, and after 10 or 20 issues, it changes,
Hmm.
and the quality of the story could drop, and the art could drop, like that, and that kind of will take you out of it. And I think
Right.
and that's why like what we used to, and I think it's still pretty much going on. Top of my head is the closest we have Western comics that are close to manga in that terms of creator owned is Image Comics.
Yeah. All of the independent comics.
Yeah, most indie books have a single creator, single writer team, which occasionally it switches up. But like
Hmm.
like I've been thinking about this question for a while, and I just decided to spring it now because I finally get my head thoughts out.
Right.
uh, is like one of my favorite books, which isn't a popular book. I'm one of the I think one of three people at Kapow, our local comic book shop, who subscribe to it. Is Savage Dragon.
Right.
He's in the upper 200 chapter or issues now, and it's been Eric Larson writing and drawing the book the entire time. Like if that's not damn near a Western mangaka, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Like now, granted, he does other work on some other books every now and again, but he has been writing and drawing Savage Dragon from the jump, and he's the only one at Image who's the founders of Image Comics who has stayed on his book 100%.
Hmm.
Like Spawn has 300 plus issues, but McFarlane jumped off that for a while. He's still kind of writing and supervising, but he has not been as involved anymore. But and what I'm getting at is like with Image for Western comics, if Marvel DC aren't your bag, that Image I think and Dark Horse and I mean all these other like the smaller companies will get a bit easier to jump into because they don't have Marvel and DC's God however long they've been making the books, history behind it.
Right. And I mean, like, look at stuff like Robert Kirkman's best and most amazing series that he's like ever written
Mm-hmm.
ever,
Yeah.
Invincible. Don't at me, Walking Dead fans.
Oh,
Um,
unpopular opinion being dropped now. Invincible is better than Walking Dead. Let's hear it in the
oh,
comments, huh?
wholeheartedly. Like, if I don't know, and they're two completely separate stories, but holy shit, like the entire ride of Invincible was amazing. And it sucks that like what he's most well known for is Walking Dead because Invincible is just about like the best superhero story I have ever read. And yeah, it feels like it'll be that way for a very long time.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
go ahead.
I was gonna say you actually you lent me the omnibus, and I don't know
Mhm,
if I just wasn't in a reading mood at the time, but I
mhm.
had trouble staying invested in that one.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
and it's kind of like one of those things, we always say with One Piece, you get to a certain point and then like you're like, blown away by it. It there was a point where the main artist that was on it, I guess, couldn't keep up with the release dates or something like that, so Ryan Stegman took over, and he or no, it wasn't Ryan Stegman. Oh my God, who's the artist in Invincible?
but I don't know, like yeah, but Invincible being a very good kind of like as best as I can remember, I always kind of took it like a darker like Superman tale because like Invincible has alien origins, but he took
Right.
it in a very much more mature route, and I was digging it, but again, but you mentioned like you like Invincible over Walking Dead, and I'm the exact opposite. Which, granted, I haven't read all of Invincible, but I was deep into Walking Dead, and that's another
Right.
series that, like, well, granted, it was a long running one. You could jump into it at almost any point, and you understand they're in
Yeah.
a zombie apocalypse.
That's true. It was Ryan Otley, not Ryan
Right on, like,
Stegman.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, yes, that's true. Like, you can't just like jump in at Invincible at certain points because like it's time. Time flows pretty naturally in this series, and like characters are added. One of the things that I loved about it is they always did like the thing where he kept updating his costume and stuff like that, and
okay,
like the characters, especially the villains, like he really did interesting things with all the villains, and changing up like how their personalities are and how their point of view changes. Once they meet Invincible, because he's not like just oh, you're a bad guy, I'm just gonna come over here and beat the shit out of you, throw you in jail or whatever. There was like interesting resolutions to a lot of his conflicts that he had, and it
for sure.
was just it was really interesting. Instead of us like having the governor storyline like three times in The Walking
Well,
Dead.
he definitely like Walking Dead can be accused of many things,
Hmm.
but it would always be accused of rinse and repeat, and we can't defend that,
Yeah, yeah.
especially after the governor. Because now, granted, there have been some like because like the governor and Negan had very similar situations,
Hmm.
but I would say both of them were very strong stories. Now,
Right.
there was another governor situation between them, which I can't even tell you about right now because again, it was very rinse, repeat, and forgettable. Like the governor and Negan and even the Whisperers afterwards were
Right.
good, and that's roughly where I fell off of Walking Dead, which was impressed enough alone because as big of a horror fan as I am, I don't
Hmm.
really do horror comics, and much
Right.
I really don't do much horror anything outside of movies and the occasional anime.
Hmm.
But
Hmm. Well, and I mean, let's talk about cons for Japanese comics a little bit. Like,
oh sure,
yeah, so like, you know, not all of them are as widely accessible. They have been doing a really good job with Shonen Jump and Viz, releasing more and more over here. But also, kind of one of the things that you get that I kind of like has been really hurts me sometimes is the Shonen Jump meat grinder.
Oh yeah.
as
Oh
I
yeah.
like to call it. And essentially, what it is there's a lot of stuff in Japan that is like especially Shonen Jump. Like it is their like fan base or popularity contests is what it is. So this basically means that you could be into a series and it could be like I don't know 15 chapters in or something, and then you get to the end of that 15th chapter and it says, "Oh, this series is concluded. It's over. It's done."
Yeah.
And the reason for it most of the time is because the popularity contest that they have and it wasn't popular enough. And I feel like we've lost some like really solid like potentially great stories because that like I don't know if it was as prominent when One Piece came out, but like you know, if they did something like that over here for One Piece wouldn't have lasted long at all.
Oh no,
You know,
One Piece is nowhere near as popular here as is Japan.
right,
It's like
right.
if going by here, which I've watched some great YouTubers who really talk about anime and the manga industry. But before we get into this, before we get
Mhm,
too much deeper in there, I think we kind of like
mhm.
can both agree. Brian, you're wrong about your opinion.
Right.
And also at the end of your message, if we don't agree with him, we have to meet him out back behind the bowling alley.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna need to
It's
fly down here because the fight will be on.
okay. I'm looking at tickets on Travelocity right now.
But yes, if y'all want us to discuss any other unpopular opinions you want to submit, we will gladly talk on the show. Either comment below in the chats or hit either one of us up on our Facebooks. We have, under Jerry Smith and Sean Litton. And
Mhm.
but thank you, Brian, for submitting your terrible opinion about Western comics.
Right.
But
Well,
get
he only says that because he's only read Moon Knight.
hey, we all know Moon Knight's terrible, right, Craig? Craig is not happy with Moon Knight right now. Are you reading the current Avengers line?
Dude, I haven't picked up a comic since before the whole COVID thing.
Gotcha,
I am
gotcha.
so far behind right now.
Now that's fair. Moon Knight
Yeah.
came. Moon Knight showed up in the Avengers headquarters and literally just started beating everyone and taking their shit, including
Nice.
Thor, because apparently Mjolnir is made of moon rocks, and
Yeah.
Moon Knight can take control of the moon. So he took Thor's
Oh.
hammer casually away from him, much to the dismay of our good friend Craig. Because
Well,
Craig,
you know how Moon Knight works. Like he can't do something, he'll come up with a personality that can.
right? But going back into the Shonen Jump meat grinder as you called it, which is very apropos. I would
Mhm.
say one of the recent casualties we had that was Tokyo Shinobi Squad.
Ugh, so fucking good.
That is what I wanted Naruto to be.
Right.
And we'll get into. There's an unpopular opinion. Naruto is not as good as Western audiences want to believe.
Yeah.
Going to anger a
Yeah.
lot of our friends listening to this, I'm sure. But like that had a creative use of powers, abilities, the setting. It was all very unique, and it lasted like what you said about 15 issues. I figured that's what you were kind of referencing.
Yeah, yeah. I think all in all, I think it was around 21 or so. Let me look here.
Yeah,
I've got
and
my app open right now.
right, because I was going to bring up like now, granted, it's been I mean that ended a few months back, but
Mhm.
and he's currently got a new one. I'm trying to remember which the name of it was, but
So the it's the artist that was on it. It went
oh okay,
27 chapters for Tokyo Shinobi Squad,
oh
and then the current series is called Phantom Seer,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
okay,
yeah, and it has the artist on it, Kento Matsura,
all right,
and
so
like yeah, the art for Phantom Seer has been so dope. I
top
honestly
notch.
really enjoy the premise for it too.
Yeah, I'm definitely digging it. But
Hmm.
yeah, that is kind of the issue though with manga, especially Shonen Jump particularly, which was covered wonderfully in an anime, a very underappreciated anime. I've always
Hmm.
pimped called Bakuman. That really
Right.
showed the audience voting how it can make and break a manga series
Hmm.
that could even lead into anime and all that. But that is the tough thing with manga. But and the other tough thing with manga, I would say also is that we get a ton of manga here in the states, but we don't get everything,
Yeah.
and that makes it hard to like keep it legal, to be honest, because
Hmm.
unfortunately, pirating is what made anime and manga popular here in the states.
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
like
and I
also
mean, it's this still the same way with like current like Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and stuff. They haven't
yeah,
really made a solid way to access any of that without really getting to it. And Sean and I will definitely advocate all day long, like official
absolutely,
releases by the merchant. That's the best way you can help.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, by uh, buying the official merch, subscribing to a channel that is streaming it. Our recently was is Tubi has the old Kamen Rider, old Super Sentai legally here in the states finally, but they're
Hmm.
not really a pay service. Like I wish they would put them out on DVD. I would buy it just to kind of encourage them to keep doing this
Right.
because we don't have an avenue for that. One of my favorite manga, getting back onto that, that's never been translated here. It's called. We got an anime release for the first like 50 chapters or so, called History's Strongest Disciple, Kenichi. I think they changed it as like Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple here. It's,
Hmm.
that thing had around 250 chapters. No, 500 chapters in Japan. I had to read them all illegally because they've never translated it here. And I've read it all, and I would buy it all physically if they ever would publish it here. So
Right.
that's kind of what makes manga hard. Is as much as you want to support the industry, I can go to Barnes and Noble all day and see the ton of manga that they have, but I don't want they don't necessarily have everything I want to read.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like, there's a lot of like resurgence going on with like old series and stuff like that getting remakes or like actually getting new printings over here. Like one of the ones that I've been like dying for the longest time is freaking Shaman King. I never thought
Oh
I'd see
yeah.
anything for that again. And they're about to do a not necessarily like I guess it would be a remake. Like they're animating it because they never ended it over here. Like it just
Oh
went so far and then like just kind of I don't know if they just did their whole thing of creating an ending.
right right.
Um, but yeah, they just did that whenever it was airing on I think Fox, and then they did the same thing with the manga. They were releasing volumes of the manga here, and then like just stopped at a certain volume. So now that they're doing this new series, they're gonna re-release all of the volumes of the manga, like reprint.
Oh, very nice. And
Yeah, so
that's
I'm,
what.
I'm pretty,
Yeah, and speaking of like re-releases, I've been if anyone's following me on Facebook or here on on YouTube, I've been getting the Berserk omnibus, which are just
that's,
oh,
those sweet sweet hardcovers.
oh, dude, made with like the nicest pleather you can ever have, and this it's finally being released. Now, granted, I know it's gonna hit a dead point because that creator takes his year-long hiatus, multi-year
Oh,
hiatuses. But
oh yeah.
I do like that they are still kind of re-releasing ones that they've already released. But like we still need like more. Like that's the
Hmm.
thing because like granted the money makers here are the Shonen Jump I would say because My Hero Academia, Naruto still with Boruto and all that the newer series like those manga are still pushing the industry here. But like there's like
Hmm.
if you haven't read anything outside of Shonen Jump, I mean there's just a world of different stories within manga for you to discover out there. And
Hmm.
I would say that's a negative on with manga here at least is you're you kind of see I kind of see the same type of stories as I go through the shelf.
Hmm.
But which granted I could always investigate more, find some good manga. I mean, I'm still finding them, but I've been happy to see older ones being re-released here. So that's kind of our manga rant out of nowhere.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but Western comics, I still love them. I still buy quite a few every week.
yeah.
I hope you can get back to it because you were a big fan of several series. I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like, oh man. And that's another thing about being a comic book collector, especially if you take a break for just a little bit,
Yeah.
like you have so much stuff to get caught up on, or like, if something like crazy happened in an issue that you missed, like you're gonna spend so much time and money trying to find that issue or get caught up in that series. And like their print runs are not always like good for everything. Like they'll do limited print runs for so much stuff.
Right. And you know what though? And here's the thing. And granted, that's a completely fair argument for most collectors. Me, if I
Mhm.
miss it, I'm just like, oh fucking well. to be honest.
Yeah.
I rarely, unless I want to get a complete run, I rarely go back and hunt for the
Hmm.
issues. I'll get the trade if I'm that lost. Like
Right.
a series I regretted not jumping on from the beginning was Immortal Hulk
Hmm.
because I just ignored it for whatever reason when it came out, and then I jumped down to like issue 11,
Right.
and there's a lot to that one, but I don't. For me personally, I'm fine. I'll buy the trades maybe eventually if I really want to read the beginning, but I'm already invested, which is
Hmm.
an amazing book if y'all haven't read that. Again,
Yeah.
another one of those rare instances where I'm enjoying a horror story. And Immortal
Mm.
Hulk really is a horror story involving the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I completely understand your hesitation on collecting certain things, especially if it's Marvel or DC, because a lot of
Right.
times if one of those series is doing particularly well, they'll have like spin-offs or side stories or something like that that'll, like, enhance like what's going on in that universe and stuff. That's why we have, like, I don't know, several different things tying into Venom right now, because Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman have been absolutely killing it with that title.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Venom,
Mm.
which I fell off that book, and
Yeah.
like that's actually usually the thing that I end up regretting more is when I
Hmm.
do cancel a book
Hmm.
and find out it was wrapping up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like oh, I'm going blank on the name now. All of a sudden, it was that one indie book that was set in like a lot of the Japanese yokai.
Oh,
Uh,
oh shit. Yeah,
yeah,
because Craig actually stayed on that one,
yeah.
and
I think I
yeah.
dropped it with maybe 5 issues ago, and now I can't find
Wow.
them. So
Yeah.
like I don't mind jumping in on a series that's already started, but I do have regrets when I drop a book and realize I could have just had the entire run. So now I admittedly still buy books that I'm not even reading.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause I was getting a lot of the DC Black labels, especially like the Joker centric ones. And there's one, this Joker Harley Quinn, a Criminal Sanity, and it's not good. But I'm buying them as they come out just to get the run.
Yeah,
But
there's been a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, I really enjoy this and everything, and then like you also have that issue where like you'll really like something, and then something will happen with shipping or how many your comic book store gets in, and you'll miss an issue, and then you'll be like, oh well, I guess I'm up a creek with that.
oh yeah, that's the worst thing when it's out of your hands. That's
Hmm.
frustrating. When you
Yeah.
and you can't even get mad at the comic book shop because like if Diamond or whoever distribute them doesn't send enough, and they go with a kind of a first come first serve basis. If you don't have it right away, yeah, you're gonna miss an issue, and sometimes you got to run to the competition, which no longer exists in my circle of comic book stores. So and there has been I've had to do that a few times because not nothing on Kapow. They if they get my stuff and they give it to me, but they don't always get it in, and it's like I actually had that issue with the manga, with
Hmm.
Demon Slayer. Actually, I've had to go out.
Oh yeah.
I'd rather give my money to my local comic shop and support a small business, but I've had to go through Amazon to Barnes and Noble to get the issues. Not anything on them, but I'll wait months for them to try to order an old volume that never came in, and it's on back order. That's not on the comic book store. That's on the distributor.
Hmm.
And I feel bad, but like if I don't get it in as it's coming in, I have to go somewhere else because the diamond is sucking so hard right now. And I don't know if that's because
Yeah.
of COVID and it's out of their hands, if that's
Hmm.
some kind of shipping issue or not. But it sucks.
They,
But
they've been having a lot of like weird, like, I don't know, internal issues and stuff like that. It's just it's real weird, especially whenever you're like the main company. You just kind of have like a monopoly on it. So
right, right.
yeah. The comic that you were referring to earlier was Wayward by Image Comic.
Wayward,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that
Yeah.
was honestly, it's been a while since that book came and gone. I'm pretty sure it was a financial thing. That's why I dropped it. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I had to cut
understandable.
down my pull list at one point,
Hmm.
and with like I said again, like I got to cancel these books, and then like I hear something like, oh yeah, like a few months afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, last issue came out. Like, well, son of a
Hmm.
bitch, I would have stayed and got finished it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean they went looks like 30 issues. They've got hardcovers coming out now, which looks like 10 issues per hardcover, so it's just going to
Oh,
be three hardcovers.
yeah.
So I might jump on that because I never got to finish it either.
Right. Yeah, I might have to scoop those up, and whenever we can get conventions going again and whatnot, try to see if I can't track down those. But it's weird. Like at most of our local conventions, you
Hmm.
can find Marvel DC stuff in all the back issue dollar bins easily than Image and those indie and like Dark Horse and the lesser companies for some reason.
Hmm.
That might be an Arkansas thing. I don't know. But that one, like, is I usually have a harder time trying to track down like Savage Dragon. I can't find those back issues for shit. But that might be just
Yeah.
because nobody likes Savage Dragon but me. But yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, I think that's gonna do it for our introductory show episode chapter. I don't know
Yeah.
whatever we're calling these damn things. Um, if you guys enjoyed hearing us, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe here on the Beard and Kappa Productions YouTube channel. We are going to be trying to put these out as often as we can, and this will probably be the most structured episode we've ever had because we had a specific theme. Because
Right.
really, we want to chat, and honestly, we like to hear from y'all. We will have some of our friends. We'll be having some guests on in the future if we can get it, whenever we can get it lined up. And I mean, if there's like an unpopular opinion you want to hear our thoughts on, or just an opinion, feel free to throw them in there because we just want to talk. We just want to discuss things and chat it up and have some good times. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, thanks for listening, Jerry. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Oh, absolutely. But we are the Yokai Delinquents, and
Yeah.
yeah, we'll catch y'all later.
Peace.